Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive, the Growave podcast. I'm your host, Joe Fox. Today I'm super excited for a number of reasons. As a lot of you viewers know, my journey in e-commerce started in Australia and I moved to the US. But one thing that has always been consistent and solid is the name that you're about to hear, Coalition Technologies. And it's always been an agency that I've wanted to work with, whether it was in my previous roles at Fast or other various tech roles. But I'm very, very glad that Coalition is a partner of Growwaves today. And I'm super excited to introduce you to the brains and the founder behind it, Jordan Brannon. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing extremely well, Joe. It's good to chat with you, and I always love to hear the good Aussie accent, even though it's traveled a few miles.
Yeah, it's starting to get a bit of a Texas twang apparently, so I've got to monitor that closely. But how are you, my friend? It's awesome to have you on the show. I mean, as I was kind of saying earlier, I think what you've achieved with Coalition and what the team you've built, we've recently launched a joint case study. The
hmm
work that you guys do and have continued to do for so many years now always stands out. And I really love the fact that I feel that, you are of a pedigree like the Darren Lynches and everything that have been on the show too, where Coalition has been around for such a long time and you guys have achieved so many great things. So I want to dive into all of that today. But firstly, I guess, do you want to, kind of tell us a little bit about Coalition, what your main day-to-day looks like now, and what you do for your customers and merchants?
Yeah, I think like a lot of great agencies, we actually come from the e-commerce and digital marketing space ourselves. Joel and I cut our teeth in the early 2000s, launching and running e-commerce stores, testing e-commerce platforms, building them, marketing them, doing all of those things. We thought we were going to head off into different professional endeavors, but ultimately couldn't get the ecom and digital marketing out of our blood. And so in 2009, we launched Coalition. And for almost 16 years now, we're almost old enough to drive. We've been a leading agency. Really, I think our success story has been tied to the fact that we really came from that retailer experience, that ecom retailer experience, and we tried to say like we don't want to be a separate business. We really want to align our focus, our KPIs with our merchants, our clients. And we want to do that from the agency all the way down to the individual team member. And it creates this culture where we're really trying to get everybody aligned and moving in the same direction. If our client's succeeding, the agency is succeeding, the individual team member is succeeding. That's been a really key part of our story for the last again 16 years now. Today I mostly get to do stuff like this. I get to be thought leader number one. I get to pretend like all of the brilliant insights that our team has are my own when I show up in a conversation like this. But I really I'm more here to try and facilitate and kind of keep unified all of the different great people we have working for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to that point, some of the team members that I've worked with in various roles over the years have been so switched on and
Mhm.
so amazing. And I think you've really, we work very regularly with Gideon now, and I feel
Mhm.
like you've just really like harvested and honestly done it in this culture of brilliance.
Mm.
I think that's one thing that I can truly say about Coalition is that it's not just yourself or Joel. It's really the people behind the
Yeah.
agency, and I think a lot of agencies can fall into this trap where they have a couple of brilliant people, and
Mhm.
then they don't foster that enough. But I can truly say that you've done that well. So
Yeah.
on that point, I'd love to kind of dig in a little bit because, we've seen a little bit of stuff pop up now, or a lot of stuff pop up now around, LLM, SEO,
Mhm.
and all of these kind of topical things that are happening at the moment. And obviously, there's, been a ton of announcements and additions recently of what's happening in the Shopify
Yeah.
ecosystem. And obviously, they're really steering quite hard into this unified commerce and things that you and I probably know from back in the day that were labeled omni-channel. But in
Mhm.
saying that, how do you foster that culture of brilliance at Coalition to keep everyone on their toes with all of the changes that are happening?
Yeah, the big secret sauce for us is we have a small group of KPIs that are true for me, and they are true for the most junior team member in the organization, and everyone's incentives are built around those. Joel's idea when we were first kind of building out our HR policies and our pay programs was to say, like, if it's a win for Coalition's client, that's a good KPI to
Yep.
have Coalition share. And then we want individual team members to benefit when that win happens, just like a client benefits. And so there's this sort of it's not really a trickle down, it's like a flow down economic theory that's happening. And so we want our clients to win. And if you come in and you start working at Coalition day one, you're going to start to hear us talking about those wins. And what it really does is it keeps us from getting distracted by a process or by how we've always done things. And so when something like LLM SEO starts to emerge, our team members are all thinking about, like, hey, does this really help our client KPI? Because that's going to help my KPI. And if it does, we're going to start to pivot. And so there's a lot of excitement and interest. There's a bit of competitiveness with it. And it really does, foster a culture of brilliance. I like that term. And it helps us stay current and stay ever evolving. We're now at over 250 people, plus about 100 different content creators that work with us on copy and video and photography. And again, I just feel like for an organization of that size, we're trying to fight, we do this because that's how we've done it sort of mentality.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah,
That you I feel like at that size it's easy to fall into that bureaucracy and
mm-hmm,
adding, lots of levels of management and all of those sorts of things. It's an interesting size from my experience with
yeah,
other companies. But I mean, I love that approach because, it's kind of the way that you're framing that and explaining that is it's you don't want it to be overly rigid to a
mm-hmm,
point that everyone's tied up in systems, but it's almost like you've created a system that continues to, allow everyone to improve, and the end result is amazing
yeah,
client results. So that's
yep,
that's really cool. And I know that you have, that's it's very, very sizable number. Like a lot of the agencies we have on here, they might have 20 staff, they're a bit more
mm-hmm,
boutique-y, they're looking to
yeah,
grow. But, I feel like you've really done that, and that's super impressive. So
yeah,
more kudos to you for that.
yep,
Can I ask you too, in saying that, what is the biggest day-to-day challenge that you
mm,
face at Coalition? Is it I know I hear a lot about, and to the point we made around all the changes happening, there's a constant level of client education that has to happen. Is that a big
yeah.
challenge for you, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think it's probably twofold. We've touched on both of them. I think that client education piece is probably number one. Uh, it's so challenging with AI to be on top of that right now, because what's happening in e-commerce and digital marketing is all of us are technologists, right? On some
Yep.
spectrum, we are much more technologically enabled and engaged than a typical consumer or user is. And so
Yep.
we actually are thinking that everybody else is doing what we're doing. And so I'll be talking to one of our merchants, and they're all of a sudden making this hard pivot into how well are we doing in ChatGPT. Like, that's going to be the thing that makes their year. And we're
Yes.
trying to pull back that rein and say, look, we know ChatGPT is the trend. We know it's growing. We know it's overtaking Bing, but it's still tiny, tiny, tiny crumbs off
Yeah.
of the Google pie.
Yeah.
You're thinking it's everything because that's what you're using as a technologist, and your customers aren't there yet. And so we're trying to help them
Yes.
measure that step. But again, the noise in LinkedIn, all of the buzz around AI, it's just hard to fight that. So that I think is certainly a big piece of that, being that we use the term expert friend a lot in-house. We say,
Okay.
like, we have to bring the expertise and we have to be your advocate for our merchants. And so we need them to trust us. But again, just with AI, it's hard to do that. We're getting weird scenarios. I just had an interaction with a merchant this morning where he just chat GPT'd my response. Didn't actually give me his thoughts, didn't respond
Wow.
to some of the context that I'd given him, just sort of copied pasted it into chat GPT, and I got a really generic, bit off topic AI response. And I was just like, that's tough, if someone's doing that because they're sort of, in some ways, the business they really care about, they're getting a very fluffy, not relevant introduction. So it's just
Yes.
that education piece is so important. I think people don't know how to personally use AI very well. That showed up with that interaction where it's just like, this guy, he's not even asking AI to evaluate my response. He's just asking AI to write the response itself. So
Yes.
educating for that is a real challenge. And I think, again, just making a big organization change oriented is tough too. I mean, like, again, just to scale, you've got to build those processes, and those processes are great for scaling, but they also can be resistant to change. And so we've got to fight all of those things.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, to that example, I find that so fascinating because I, I find it even in text message conversations with friends and things, asking questions about things, these kind of like these very AI, driven replies that are coming back. And
Yep.
it fascinates me because I think at the end of the day, as technologists, as marketers, as people who are so heavily focused in this space, I mean, we really are at the forefront of all of this change that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder if it's going to go back the other way at some point where people are really, focused on not having anything that's AI driven,
Yep.
so that everything is super authentic. I mean, I can see it sometimes in copy, or particularly on Google search ads, and even I'm seeing funny little kind of errors that are showing up in remarketing and retargeting, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like to your point, it's like we are on the edge of this, but it isn't everything. And I really
Yeah.
hope we don't end up in a position when we do a follow-up conversation, in a year's time where everything has gone the direction of everyone using AI for everything. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
had a friend who called it out. He said, people in relationships are now doing what companies did to consumers. If you were the low value consumer, you spent a bunch of time on hold with the automated bot, pressing one or yelling angrily, customer service, operator, cancel.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now, if you're the premium subscriber, you actually got to talk to the person, the concierge service. And he said, like, look, I'm kind of doing this with people. Like, if I don't have a ton of time for our relationship, I may actually use AI to write the response, to get the response out. If I really value the relationship, I might be doing it more personally. I think brands are starting to see that. Like, now, if we can put people in touch with a human, it shows a value. So yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting time. Like, if grandma is low value in the conversation and is trying to guilt me again about not calling her every 5 minutes, I might just need a Jordan GPT that's gonna do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, from a technology perspective, we're being very cognizant of how we're choosing to use AI and in
Mm-hmm.
what areas of our products. And, there's some great things it can do, like aggregate, reviews and really highlight what's best and everything like that. But the flip side of that is we don't want to take away any of the brand's authenticity. So we're being very, very measured and controlled in that. And I'm very interested to see, how Eldar, our CEO, and the product team continue to utilize AI within the product, because it's not a matter of whether you can do it or not. I think you have to do it, but you can very much choose how you do it, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do it tastefully. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's our plans on that side of
Yep. It's
things.
great. It's great.
Another question for you. You've been in this space for an incredible amount of time. You've seen so many trends. You've seen the
The hairline, yeah, I get this nice halo saintly effect going if I tilt my head the wrong way. So yes, thanks for
Well,
calling that out, man.
I have to go so short because and I've got to have the lights on me because it's so grey now, and I feel like it's going grayer by the day. But that's the life we choose to live, right? But ideally, I would love to get your perspective, Jordan, because you have, you're a veteran in this space. You have so much experience. You've seen so many things come and go. I mean, everyone, a lot of people were skeptical on Shopify when Shopify first came
Yep.
out. A lot of people are very bullish, now on AI. What's like one, kind of key uh from your perspective, what's one key kind of prediction that you think that we'll see in the next, 12, we can do this for 12 months because we'll hopefully have this conversation again then. What's
Yeah.
something that you think maybe not everyone's paying attention to, but they should, or what's an insight you have there?
Yeah, the two, I'll give you two for the price of
Yeah,
one that
perfect.
we're betting on is, and we talk a lot about this on our LinkedIn, our newsletters to clients, and our own podcast, which we've got to make sure we've got a reciprocal happening. But it is that AI is moving to become the operating system for
Mm,
all of our digital experiences. So if you are thinking about AI as a app that stands alone and we navigate almost like a Google app, or
yeah,
we think about it as a channel, meaning I interact with the app to get someplace else, we're really misunderstanding what these big AI companies are after and what a really helpful AI assistant can achieve. I
yeah,
think the future state, and 12 months might be right at the margin of this. I think you'll basically start up your iPhone, start up your Android device, and you're going to be in some sort of AI experience, not your typical home screen, and you're going to say like, hey, important email, hey, who do I need to call, hey, what's on my calendar, hey, what's in my bank balance, hey, I need to buy this, hey, any interesting stuff happen on Instagram, do I have any DMs in Instagram, do I have this happening, what's going on TikTok, anything I should watch that's trending. And I can do that all from one interface, and I'm never actually ending up into that app until I'm really dedicated for an actual experience. So that's sort of where we're going. And I think that sort of the second part prediction of that is I do think Google's still going to win. Barring a big antitrust action, it just is too well positioned to pick up the hardware, to pick up that operating system experience, to have sort of an integrated browser, to have a really great AI, because Gemini is gets sort of kind of ridiculed a bit, but it is in terms of multimodal, doing a ton of different things really well. Google's got it, so I think like those are sort of the two predictions. I think 12 months to 15 months, I think we'll have a bit of a consolidation in the AI market around one AI solution, maybe two, if Apple has to kind of get into bed with somebody to make their fortunes stay alive. But it'll be sort
yes.
of hardware rooted, it'll be operating system driven, and it's going to eliminate a lot of the apps and a lot of the different experiences we had. We're telling people to be prepared for sort of the end of the open web. We're calling it the webless web, where you're feeding information into your AI, a platform of choice, in hopes that your brand, your product, your service, your content gets surfaced. But really, that sort of open web experience where people come to a million different websites in the course of a week, we think that's going to shrink quite a bit.
That's fascinating. I love that. I think, I mean, there's a couple of points I want to pull out of there, which I think are amazing. I agree so much because the way that I think that the exact experience you've described there, Jordan, as this, future state is almost in a way how we operate sort of on an individual basis with all of these apps. But it's kind of like when, I'll use this as an example, say when Instagram changes their algorithm, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Instagram algorithm was fantastic originally because it would focus on our friends, focus on the people we engage with, not really much paid content, and it would almost give us the highlight so that we didn't have to spend hours on the app. And then
Yep.
obviously Meta clued onto that and said, hey, that's not going to be making us the money that we want to make. So let's flip that on its head. But that kind of operating system or being that ingrained in the AI and really being able to pull through the highlights that are
Mm-hmm.
relevant to you, anything that saves me time, I'm sure you're the same. I'm all about it. So that
Yep.
sounds like a really cool kind of like, I wouldn't say end state, but future state.
Yep.
Um, and then the other thing I was going to kind of mention to that is obviously, that's a very strong, good, accurate prediction in my opinion. How are you shaping coalition to align with that?
Yeah. I think for us, especially because we are thinking about this both, for our own existence, but also really for merchants, again, we've succeeded because we've been able to align with what our merchants need. We're really talking about these AI experiences behaving more like marketplaces. And so for all of our clients today, we're really thinking about how do we on platform to the AIs we're betting are going to win, so that full customer experience, the full customer acquisition, the full funnel, even down to purchase and customer service returns, we're sort of AI ready. So we're doing things with website design to make them more friendly for agentic users. Again,
Yep.
some fringe data on your site, like about your customer service policies, GPT may not do anything with today, but an agent may be able to find that information, pull it out, bring it back to your consumer. So that's a big
Yep.
part of it. We're also really working on feed type data. We're working on making sure feeds are being published to the different AI leaders that are out there. Google obviously has an amazing feed program already. So we're making sure that's really rich. And Google keeps adding in new little structured elements to help communicate coupons and email offers and things like that. So we're trying to
Nice.
keep that. That's
Yeah.
table stakes today.
Yep.
And then I think in a future state, we're also sort of really emphasizing PR and really getting a little more creative with your content so that there's a reason for someone to land with you. Because again, in the age of AI, everything gets a little more generic and you lose a little bit of the spice of life. And so brands have to think about moving beyond vanilla and sort of functional shopping if
Yep.
they're going
Yep.
to have popularity enough where someone actually wants to go and shop with you instead of just another Amazon.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's such a it's a very multifaceted approach that continually sticks with coalitions, merchant first, customer, client first
Yeah.
kind of mentality, which I absolutely love. Um, Can I ask you a question then around the AI side of things on a personal level?
Mm-hmm.
Have you purchased anything utilizing AI? Because I've had a couple of guests on recently, and this is, a new question that I'm kind of asking everyone because I've utilized it in a similar fashion that I've used Google in terms of researching product or Reddit to research product. I've had products show up in feed, and obviously it still takes me across to site. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
another funneled way. But, are transactions happening in the actual LLM at the moment, or is it still a traffic driver at this current point in time?
Much more a traffic driver today. And there's an interesting tussle that's going to happen. Like, I don't know if you saw the news, Shopify had actually published basically an update to robots.txt files with where it said, like, if you can't come into my checkout, like that sort of was like, don't do it.
Yes, that was
Um,
last night or so, or a couple of days ago or
yep.
something. I did see
Yep.
that. Yes.
Very
Yeah.
recently. Yep. So that's sort of an interesting thing because Shopify has also just come out as being one of ChatGPT's search and shopping partners. That's been publicly confirmed now. They rumors back in April. They slipped it into some terms and conditions a little bit ago. So we sort of know that Shopify shops, using the term shop, referring to the marketplace. Data is now
Yes.
actually being fed to ChatGPT for shopping. It's interesting that they're still trying to handcuff out of checkout. Of course, that comes back to Shopify's merchant services being their big driver. They don't want ChatGPT to pick the payment provider there because they need
Yes.
Shop Pay to be it. So there'll be some wrangling there. But so yes, right now, mostly a shopping thing. I've tried Operator, which is one of the sort of agentic experiences that you can have to navigate and purchase from some of our customer sites just to sort of gauge what that experience is like. It works okay on some sites where the checkout and the page navigation is really clear, but it's a really powerful shopping tool. One of the biggest issues we're also talking with merchants about is solving for hallucinations. Like a really common
Mm,
one is people are using ChatGPT for pricing comparison. And
mm,
ChatGPT is really bad at pricing comparison. It's not like Google where it's built up a pricing comparison data, or Bing,
yes.
which has been doing the same thing through the Edge browser where you have sort of these nice legitimate price comparisons. ChatGPT hallucinates it a lot. And it tends to hallucinate negative. So you can say, like,
Oh,
hey, what's this shirt cost? Which is like Goodwill probably.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's this shirt cost? ChatGPT is there a better price coming? The answer is almost always yes, and the answers actually may always be no. And so it's a really interesting sort of thing to try to solve that information for. You now have to publish information on your site in a way that a chat GPT is going to index and say, hey, this is the lowest price in 30 days. You now need to be communicating that on your own behalf instead of relying on an aggregator someplace. So I hopefully answer that question.
No, that's a very, excellent answer. And I think that's fascinating to me because I have noticed, particularly ChatGPT, some of the results can often be old and historic and everything like that. So that makes a lot of sense with the way that that feed's being done. But also, I mean, great for your clients to know that you're thinking of that and you're that far focused because I once again that speaks to the success you've had and the reason Coalition is still going so strong and growing so well
Yeah.
because that sort of forward thinking I can almost guarantee isn't happening with a lot of agencies and yeah, so once again, congratulations on that. Another note, because I feel like we could literally talk for hours about all of this, but I know that we both have to be places. So I think maybe we can do a part two on the Coalition podcast. But um, I really like to cover these things with every guest because I think
Mm.
it's to your point earlier, we're in an industry that's very fast moving. We're always at the cutting edge of technology. But one thing that is very common to all of us, I think, and I know that you have a very spread out global sort of optimized team,
Hmm.
and you're obviously traveling a lot. Um, what's one thing that you cannot not travel without? And you can't say a person because everyone wants to say a person like a spouse or a child or something, but what's one thing you can't travel without?
I am an AirPods guy. I think that's probably the one thing that I'd say if I leave home without it, I feel a lot more naked and ill-equipped than I actually am. So that's probably the one that I would go to as an easy answer. I've also we've actually worked with them as a client, but Rocketbook, which is one of those little erasable notebooks, you can scan it back into your
Yes.
phone and it
Yep.
digitizes. A lot of my travel is for conferences, and so I'm talking to interesting people. I'm trying to make notes, but I don't go back and I don't look at those notes later. So I have to get them into Google Drive. That's a real key for me. So that's probably the second thing would be a Rocketbook.
Nice.
Free
And
plug
is
for
that
them
what?
too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we can put a link to them as well in the show notes, and I'll make sure to link to everything we've discussed. And on that note, Jordan, what is the best way? I know that you put out some like I always engage with your LinkedIn posts because I really think we can hear from the discussion we've just had, you really are at the cutting edge and thinking beyond. So I really love the content you put out there. So I'm gonna automatically put your LinkedIn in the show notes because I think people should really follow that. Whether you're a merchant, whether you're a partner, or a tech vendor, or even an agency looking for inspiration to
Yeah.
grow as well, because you've really walked the talk. Where else should people connect with you or connect with Coalition?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great one. Both Joel and I are pretty active there. We sometimes have little arguments in each other's comment sections because we don't
I've
always
seen that.
agree on where that's going, but it's actually really helpful. I think it shows some differentiation of opinion. So that's really great. Our newsletter is going out to a couple thousand people every week. We summarize sort of key news that we've seen, as well as some of our own thoughts on our own publications. We'll include some of our own studies. Again, we've got 300 something active merchants that we're working with, plus a couple hundred more that we have data access for, and they've allowed us to use some of their information as part of our studies. So we can provide some good insights on that particular front. So those would be the two. If you are an agency, I would say we do participate in the agency subreddit a fair bit. We have Ask Me Anything coming up, and I've done a couple of podcasts kind of geared towards agency owners specifically and people kind of on that journey. So that's one that's worth looking at, and then you can usually find us in some other subreddits as well, kind of advocating for SEO and things like that. So those are probably the ones I'd recommend.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And once again, I'll make sure all of those links are included below, including the Reddit links. I'm a big Reddit guy. Like that's my new, I don't have any other socials besides LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And then I utilize Reddit for a combination of
Yep.
personal and work.
Yep.
So I'll definitely make sure that those are in there. And lastly, well, I just want to thank you. Like, honestly, I think you do so much for your merchants, for your staff, for the industry, both on a tech and an agency side. Like, what you've done is incredible. So I just really want to thank you for coming on today, Jordan.
Yeah.
We love having you guys as partners. I love knowing you as a person. I like staying in touch with everything, that you're focused and working on, and your predictions. And yeah, really looking forward to continuing the partnership. And like I said, I'd definitely love to have you on, in 12 months, and we can fine tune that prediction as needed, or we can turn around and say to everyone, "I told you so," which I'm
We might
sure it
just
will
be on
be.
the space cruise ship, Wally style by then. So that'll be it. We maybe I'll be under setting expectations. But yeah, I really do appreciate all those comments, and I really appreciated knowing you personally, and then also just having to work alongside you professionally. Again, whenever someone's an advocate for not only the company they're working for, but for who they're serving, it does everybody so much more good. And I've really enjoyed seeing that demonstrated time and time again when working with you. So
Thank you so much, Jordan. Appreciate that, mate. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I'll make sure every single link is included below. Audience, I encourage you to please click on those links, check out this information. Jordan and the whole team at Coalition are very, 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 very client focused on success, focused on the industry, thriving and not just surviving. So please check them out. And thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll see you all again soon.
all right, see you, man.